Analysis of Wilfred Owen's war poem, The Last Laugh. It's a 3-stanza poem, 3 quintains, that deal with 3 different soldiers dying, and deals in their dying moments the fact that the machinery of war is what gets the last laugh over them as they die. So again, dealing with the theme that's so common in Wilfred Owen's poetry of soldiers dying deaths that are not befitting the heroic sacrifice that they've made for their country. The Last Laugh, the title of the poem, is an idiom and gives the sense that this is something cliched that is happening to the soldiers, and that it's something that's quite awful and cruel that's happening to them. We have the alliteration in the title, of course, which is deadened somewhat by the fact that it is already an idiom, but the idea of laughing being the last thing that happens and that death being a mockery comes through in this alliteration, where last and laugh become joined together through the alliteration of that L sound. We open up with this exclamation, "O Jesus Christ," and then that's going to come up in the second line again. Whether he vainly cursed, whether that exclamation of "O Jesus Christ" was a curse or a prayer, we're unsure. But that's what we start with, that exclamation, "O Jesus Christ, I'm hit," he said and died. There's a sense of logic and finality to that "said" and "died," and they've got that internal rhyme, said, died, or at least assonance, or that elongated I sound, said, died, that join the two together, that there's a sense of the inevitable, that as soon as you say "I'm hit," that's it, it's over. We have the juxtaposition in the second line of the soldier either vainly cursing or praying to God. So he's either cursing God or imploring on God's help, and the contrast between the two highlights the fact that it doesn't matter whether he is cursing God or praying to God, the result is still the same, that he's going to end up dead, and that there's nothing that God is willing to do in that moment to save him. We then get a series of personification in the final 3 lines. The bullets are personified, the machine guns are personified, and the big gun is personified. And all of them are personified in such a way that they're laughing at the soldier. So the bullets chirped, "in vain, in vain, in vain." You get that repetition, reminding the soldier that they've just died in vain. The machine guns chuckling, tut, 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 as if they're chiding or remonstrating the soldier, saying how foolish, that we should not have done this. And then the big gun guffawed. It seems to take glee in the fact that the soldier has just died. We then move on to the second stanza of the poem, another side. So the other here is another soldier. So another soldier sighs, "Oh mother, mother, dad," calling out to their parents rather than calling out to God in this instance. Wilfred Owen had quite a intense relationship perhaps with his mother that we know about from his letters home from the front, and that is perhaps something worth investigating, and doing a bit of digging into to think about that relationship and how that might be relevant to any poem in which a persona calls upon their mother. So the second soldier here smiles at nothing, childlike, being dead. And so this idea of dead, this idea of death rather, is linked again to a childlike innocence, which is so common of the poems, of the war poems that Wilfred Owen wrote. He smiles at nothing, childlike, and dies. And the lofty shrapnel cloud, again, we get this personification, which is sort of the bread and butter of this poem. Leisurely gestured, fool, and again, treating the fallen soldier like they're an idiot. And the splinters spat. We get that the alliteration of that SP sound, which does have that does connote that idea of spitting, the sp, that they're being spat at in their deaths, again being mocked as they died, and tittered, laughing at them sort of behind a hand and saying how foolish the soldier is, and that the industrial war complex of the modern era at the turn of the century couldn't help but destroy these young men, and that machinery has well and truly overtaken them, and how foolish they were to think that they could run up against machine guns, as if it was their choice. We then move into the final stanza, my love, one moaned. And so here, instead of sighing, we're moaning. And yeah, it gets the sense that this is a romantic love that a soldier is calling out for. Love languid, we repeat that alliteration from the beginning of the poem. Last laugh is now love languid. We get that lateral elongated l sound, which seems to reflect the mood. Indeed, Owen says, seemed his mood, till slowly lowered, and we get that assonance there of oh, slowly lowered. His whole face kissed the mud. And so here, this figurative language of kissing the mud as his face falls forward into the muck and into the mire, that he's replaced his beloved with the battlefield in his death. And the bayonet's long teeth, again, we've got this personification of bayonets, shells, and gas in this instance. And the bayonet's long teeth grinned, the rabbles of shells hooted and groaned, and the gas hissed. And so again, the laughter is quite acerbic. It's a mocking laughter. It's really lambasting the soldiers, really digging into them and having a go at them in their death. And again, I think it is referring to this idea that that humanity could possibly believe that flesh and blood can do anything against a machine, can do anything against metal in this industrialized age, and that war is quite awful and quite horrible as a result of this. There's just a brief analysis of Wilfred Owen's The Last Laugh.